Hello guys, this is episode 11 of System Design 100 and today we're gonna talk about database scaling. Okay, so I hope you know about scaling, right? Scaling generally is divided into two types. Similarly, here we can divide database scaling into two types. One is vertical scaling and one is horizontal scaling. Let's talk about vertical scaling first. So, vertical scaling is not a very complex topic. In all of the components, even if I talk about web servers, vertical scaling remains the same. What we do in vertical scaling, for example, we have a database server. Okay? This is a database server with a capacity of 500 gigabytes of storage, and we have two core CPU, and we have 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now, this particular storage will be able to handle certain requests for a certain level. For example, it's able to handle 1000 requests per second or 10,000 requests per second. But when requests start to rise up to a certain level, this particular database won't be able to handle it, and it will start throttling and it will have performance issues. What we will do, we will increase its capacity of this single database. We will increase the storage to 1000 gigabytes. We'll put it as 4 core CPU and will increase the memory to 32 gigabytes. Again, after that, it will be able to handle a request up to a certain level. For example, 50,000 requests per second, 100,000 requests per second. But again, it will again start failing after a certain level. Will again increase the particular sizes of this particular database. 2000 gigabytes, 8 core CPU, and 64 gigabytes of RAM. But if you notice, right, the pattern here, as the number of requests or as the number of queries are increasing for this particular database, it stops working after a certain level. And specifically, if I say, right, there is a limit to for a particular machine of which you can increase its capacity. Okay, there will come a certain level after which I will not be able to increase the capacity. I will not be able to increase the number of cores of CPU and the memory and the storage. So there is a limitation for vertically scaling a particular database. Okay, so this is one of the very big disadvantages, that you cannot scale up after a certain point of time, because the number of users can keep increasing, but after a certain point of time you just cannot scale it. I think if the maximum RAM in Amazon you can give to a particular database is around 700 gigabytes, something around this number. But after that, it stopped after that, because adding physical power to a particular single component, there is a limit to that. Okay. Second point is that, when you increase when you increase the capacity of a particular database, or the particular specification of a database, the jump from a low level capacity to a high level capacity is exponential in terms of prices. Okay. Uh, if you compare a very small CPU, for example, it's just 1 gigabyte and around 100 gigabytes of storage, and 1 gigabyte memory storage, and one CPU, it will be very cheap. If I convert it into dollar, it will be around I think $0.5 per hour. But as you start increasing its capacity, these prices can go to several $1,000s per hour, right? So the price increase when you try to vertically scale a particular database is very exponential. It's after certain point of time, it doesn't stay economical for a particular business or for a particular system that you're running. Okay. Third point is a very simple one. Since you're increasing the capacity of a single database, this particular database, right? This becomes a single point of failure. What happens if, due to some case, this particular database fails and it contains all of your data, because you just kept incrementing the capacity of this single database? All of your data will be lost and your system will be halted, right? So these are the disadvantages of vertical scaling. Vertical scaling is, I'm not saying it's not usable at all. Up to a certain extent, if you're expecting very uniform load into the application, and if your application is not very user rich, means there are not a lot of users in millions and billions. Vertical scaling works fine, and you can definitely manually go and scale your database depending upon the current load. Okay, but for a very large use cases, that's what we are discussing right from the very beginning. We are discussing very large use case. Vertical scaling tends to fail only.